here on the Game Plus Network. I am Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook. What a great show we have in store for you guys today. And as always, we like to kick things off without wasting any time with our NFL Power Rankings, and we always start with number 32. The New York Jets remain at number 32 on our list, but there is hope for Gang Green this weekend as starting quarterback Sam Darnold has been cleared to play after spending the last 3 games on the sideline after battling mono. Head coach Adam Gase hopes that having number 14 back in the fold could be the jumpstart that their anemic offense needs to get them their first victory on the season. In Miami, the Dolphins return off of a bye and get to take on the Jay Gruden-less Washington Redskins. We've noted before that the Dolphins have been very competitive in their games early on, but have faltered late in ball games. Coming off of a bye, it'll be interesting to see what adjustments were made by head coach Brian Flores to get the Fins on the winning track. Looking at teams 26 through 30, and the Washington Redskins head into the rest of the season with Bill Callahan as the interim head coach, and we'll see how quickly he goes to the rookie Dwayne Haskins at the quarterback position during the final 11 games of the season. What we do know is that he will rededicate the Redskins to running the football. Cincinnati is close to being 4-1, or at least 3-2 for that matter, but the record is what it says it is, and the Bengals have to get a win very soon. Atlanta is another team that goes into week 6 desperate for a victory as well. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers have had one of the weirder starts to the season and are already on their 3rd string quarterback in Devlin Hodges out of Stanford. The former Bulldog star looked impressive last week against the Ravens and gets an opportunity to start a full game against the Los Angeles Chargers as Mason Rudolph comes back from a concussion or in the concussion protocol. Arizona was able to get their first victory of the season last week against the Cincinnati Bengals in impressive fashion. We saw Kyler Murray's dual threat capability be the reason why they were able to come back against the Bengals. It was the first complete game, in my opinion, that we've seen from Arizona this season from start to finish. Moving right along with teams 21 through 25, and the Denver Broncos finally got their first win of the season after dominating the Los Angeles Chargers throughout the game. The Cleveland Browns are coming off of an ugly loss to the San Francisco 49ers on Monday Night Football in a game where both Baker Mayfield and their run defense looked like straight liabilities all game long. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers couldn't come away with a win in the Superdome against the New Orleans Saints, but I still believe the Bucs will be a very good team when it's all said and done. The Tennessee Titans have to find some offense, in my opinion. Losing a 14-7 game to the Buffalo Bills just highlights what's really missing in Tennessee. Yes, the kicker, Cairo Santos, missed 4 field goals and he's now been cut. And I don't want to take away the blame from him, but how about you don't put it in the kicker's hands by finding ways to score touchdowns and not settle for 3 points? The New York Giants lost to the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday, but got great play from Jabril Peppers, the safety, who seems to make a big play a game for Big Blue. Now, what got exposed a bit against the Vikings was the pass protection. The hope is that was just an off day versus a great matchup and not a sign of things to come for that front 5. The Los Angeles Chargers ended up 20th on our Week 6 Power Rankings list after a flat effort against the Denver Broncos. Minnesota's passing game flourished against the New York Giants, at least for 1 week. All is well between quarterback Kirk Cousins and his wide receivers Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs. The Chicago Bears will take full advantage of this bye week, getting Chase Daniel and that offense back on the right track as it looks to be becoming a big issue in the Windy City. And the Jacksonville Jaguars gave a valiant effort against the Carolina Panthers, but their defense couldn't stop Christian McCaffrey in that ground game, who's looking like a legit MVP candidate this season. And speaking of sensational running backs, the Oakland Raiders rookie Josh Jacobs is putting together an impressive season. He's averaging 86 yards per game at 4.9 yards a carry and is coming off his first 100-yard rushing game this season, a 123-yard effort against the Chicago Bears in London. Now, while he hasn't been much of the receiver just yet for Oakland, he's been exactly what they could have asked for in the running game. Teams 11 through 15, in my opinion, are a good, solid group of teams with at least one question mark. For Carolina, it's when Cam Newton comes back into the fold, does the play calling change and alter the success that they're having out there on the field? For Philadelphia, it's whether or not they can stay balanced on offense, as their ground game over the last 2 games seems to have given them enough balance offensively. For the 4-1 Buffalo Bills, the major question for me is whether or not they can generate enough offense to take some of the pressure off of their defense having to be outstanding each and every week in order to get a win. For the Ravens, the question is whether or not their defense will continue to get better or will get better as the season rolls on, as they will eventually get back cornerback Jimmy Smith that'll help out on the perimeter, but they also lose safety Tony Jefferson, who plays a big role in their defense, in particular in their secondary. And for the Detroit Lions, can they get a statement win against a red-hot Green Bay Packers team? Now, there are no moral victories in football, so while it was good to go toe-to-toe with the Kansas City Chiefs a couple of weeks ago, the Lions have to be feeling as though they are not getting the respect that their 2-1-1 record suggests. So beating Green Bay could go a long way in changing that perception. Moving into the top 10, and the Los Angeles Rams and Dallas Cowboys look to be neck and neck in the NFC, where at one point during the season, and while they still could be just that, they have to find a way to get a win. Indianapolis got a big one last week against Kansas City, putting the rest of the league on notice moving forward. The Packers can run the football really well with Aaron Jones, and when they do, they tend to walk away from games with victories. And the Houston Texans have one of the more explosive offenses in the NFL outside of the Kansas City Chiefs, and they're being led by another MVP candidate in quarterback, Deshaun Watson. Finally, we reach our top 5, and the Kansas City Chiefs fall from number 2 to number 3, and the Seattle Seahawks move into our top 5 this week, along with the San Francisco 49ers, whose defense looks like a serious contender for the best in the league title in the NFL. The New Orleans Saints defense has been a big part of their 3-0 record in the absence of Drew Brees, along with the play of future franchise quarterback Teddy Bridgewater, and the Patriots just continue to be the Patriots. It never ceases to amaze me at how consistently great New England continues to be over nearly 2 decades. Be sure to order your copy of the Go-Go Offense by Coach Brennan Marion on footballgameplan.com/GoGoOffense. Coach Marion goes through the ins and outs of his explosive offense, one that's tearing up the college football field and putting a lot of points on the scoreboard. Again, you can order your copy at footballgameplan.com/GoGoOffense. Football Game Plan is brought to you in part by Ninth and Lux. Visit the website ninethandlux.com and check out the clothing gallery. Do You Music, with featured artist IW and his latest album, Season 2. You can check that out on iTunes as well as doyoumusic.com. Nesby Phipps, art, life, entertainment. NesbyPhipps.com. Grind It Out Fitness. Visit the website grinditoutfitness.com and download the app.
I'm Alex Marinoni, offering you Football Game Plan's best bets for Week 6. Let's start things off in London, where the Carolina Panthers will take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Panthers have been getting it done with a great defense, adequate quarterback play from Kyle Allen, and hero ball from Christian McCaffrey. They go up against a Buccaneers team that have shocked a lot of people with how well they have played, specifically on the offensive side of the ball. Playing in London throws an interesting element in this game, considering one team usually comes out to a slow start. The Buccaneers have been relying on the arm of Winston all year, mainly because of the lack of production from the ground game. That type of style typically means that this will be the team that comes out the gate slow. With a well-balanced attack for the Panthers and the better defense, expect them to play a full, complete game and jump out to an early lead. With the way the Panthers have been able to control the ball, expect them to hold off the Bucs. The line is set at 2.5 for the Panthers, and with the team going 4-2 against the spread this year, taking them to win by a field goal is your best bet. In our next game, we have a potential shootout between the Houston Texans heading to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. The Texans are coming off a big-time offensive performance that should convince you that this is the Texans offense we should get used to seeing. On the flip side, we saw our Chiefs offense struggle against the Colts last week, but they have proved enough that they are the most explosive offense still in the league. Both defenses have struggled to keep points off the board, and we learned last week that teams aren't afraid of playing in Arrowhead. This game has a chance to really be a fun Big 12 type of game that comes down to the final team with the ball that will score. The over-under is set right now at 55.5. The best bet for this game is to take the over here. In Game 3, we have the Eagles heading to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. Both teams are coming off convincing victories, but played far inferior opponents. Both of these defenses can get after quarterbacks and force turnovers. This game should have a feel of a playoff-like atmosphere with both teams at 3-2 and in second in their respective divisions. The winner of this game could ultimately decide each team's playoff fate. The Eagles will force Kirk Cousins to beat them with his arm, which doesn't bode well for Minnesota, as Cousins' career record against teams with a 500 record or better is at 5-27. Add in the fact that Carson Wentz and company were already able to go into Lambeau Field this year on a short week and beat a tough Packers team shows that they are more than capable of winning this game. With a plus 125 on the money line, take the Eagles to win this game. In our next game, we have the Cincinnati Bengals heading to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. The Ravens, despite the win last week, have struggled mightily defensively, but has had the offense to bail them out. The Bengals, on the other hand, despite the 0-5 record, have looked better as of late. The Bengals offense has been able to keep the team in games and even give themselves a chance to win. The Ravens have the better team and should ultimately win this game, but as far as the line goes, they are giving the Bengals 11.5 points. With the struggles of this Ravens defense, the best bet here is to expect the Bengals to at least cover this spread. In our next game, we have the Seattle Seahawks heading to Cleveland to take on the Browns. The Seahawks have gotten out to a great start and possess possibly the MVP of the league in Russell Wilson. The defense has been playing very well for the Seahawks, however, have been giving up some big games on the ground. With the way Nick Chubb has been running the ball, he could keep the Browns offense on the field and extend drives. Russell Wilson has been great, but rarely do the Seahawks put up the big points. In a hostile environment in Cleveland, a defensive struggle for majority of this game is likely. With the over-under set at 47, taking the under here will be the best bet. In our final game, we have the New Orleans Saints heading to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. Both teams with very stout defenses and backup quarterbacks have impressed. The Jaguars can get after the quarterback just as well as anyone in the league, but may again be without Jalen Ramsey. The Saints defense has prided themselves on stopping the run against a team in Jacksonville whose offense runs through the running back. It could be, which could lead to a tough day. Teddy Bridgewater also proved last week that he is more than a backup quarterback. Expect the Saints to win this game by only giving the Jaguars 1 point. Expect them to cover the spread. This was Football Game Plan's Best Bets. I'm Alex Marinoni.
We are in our 150th year of college football, so it's always good to go back and reflect on some of the big moments we've seen over the course of its history. And we're going to count down the top 10 moments, my personal top 10 moments in college football history. Remember, this is just my personal favorite list, so it doesn't take into account all 150 years, just what I personally found memorable, like Desmond Howard's game-winning touchdown catch versus Notre Dame on 4th down, Tommy Frazier personally putting an end to the Florida Gators in the Fiesta Bowl with the outstanding 62-yard run. How about Ed Reed saving the Miami Hurricanes' perfect season with that miraculous fumble recovery against Boston College, or Michael Barrow's huge hit against Tamarick Vanover in what exemplified the Miami Hurricanes of the 80s and 90s. In the first Big 12 championship game, Texas's gutsy 4th down call against the number 1 Nebraska Cornhuskers to put the game on ice, and a personal favorite of mine as my Raging Cajuns upset 25th ranked Texas A&M at Cajun Field, which saw fans storm the field and tear down the goalpost. Deshaun Watson's slaying of Alabama in the title game checks in at number 4. Third is Ricky Williams breaking college football all-time rushing record against the rival Texas A&M Aggies. And at number 2, Desmond Howard striking the Heisman polls after the fantastic punt return touchdown against their rival Ohio State. And at number 1, the 2006 Rose Bowl game where Vince Young and the Texas Longhorns upset that USC juggernaut in what was one of the best games ever played in college football history.
Well, the game of football has taught me so many things, man. Now, think about the huddle we have right now, right? I tell people this all the time. There's a reason why they call it a huddle. You know, people have been huddling all their lives, trying to find ways to enhance each other's lives. The great teams do that all the time. The great teams do that. The better the huddle, the better the team. And so it's simple, man, how if you huddle for all the right reasons, we wouldn't have Ferguson. We wouldn't have some of the challenges that we have in our society. But as we all know, there's always a moment when somebody doesn't belong in the huddle. And yet we have to continue to move on. We got to continue to play. So the game of life, man, is always starting with a huddle. And for me, I'm lucky enough to know that, you know, by the graces of God, man, it's been a nice huddle. It's been a nice huddle. And if I just keep making sure that he's in front of me, I'm gonna be all right.
Football Game Plan is brought to you in part by Financial Coaching LLC, investment, retirement, security. Stewardship Credit, financial growth is in your hands. Stewardshipcredit.com. Adrienne Marie Photo, photographer, writer, management. AdrienneMariePhotography.com. Lock Multimedia.
Troy Anthony here with Football Game Plan's NFL Week 6 Best Bets. The Dolphins have played a few teams tough in the first half of their games. Coming off a bye with 2 weeks to prepare for an also winless Redskins team, I'm going to take the Dolphins on the money line here at plus 150. I know this is a bit bold, but both of these teams are pretty bad, and I love the extra week of preparation for the Dolphins. The Redskins are in a bit of turmoil right now after firing their head coach, Jay Gruden. After losing back-to-back games, the Rams are looking to get right against a division foe in the 49ers. I have to take the Rams here on the money line at minus 195. The 49ers have a good record right now, and their defense has been solid, but they have yet to face a team that can bring it on both sides like the Los Angeles Rams. This would be the best defense that Jimmy G has seen so far this season, and I don't think the Niners offense will be able to keep up with the Rams' high-flying offense. Who would have thought at this point in the season the 1-3-1 Arizona Cardinals would have a better record than the 1-4 Atlanta Falcons? Both teams seem to be pretty bad this year, but the Falcons' offense might prove too much for the Cardinals' defense to handle. Matty Ice and the Falcons have put up yards. Scoring is their issue, but they get that corrected, at least for this week. So I'm taking Atlanta, -2 at minus 110 on the road in Arizona. Dallas heads to MetLife to take on the struggling New York Jets. We know how big this Dallas Cowboys offense is this year, and how good that defense could be. We don't know who will be the quarterback starting for the New York Jets. Regardless, this Cowboys team is way too complete for the Jets to hang with. At -8.5 for minus 110, I have to take Dallas giving the points here. Denver got their first win of the season this past week, and if not for just a few plays, they would have a winning record. The Titans played the Bills tough, but couldn't pull it out. This week, I have both teams repeating the same outcome, as I'm taking Denver on the money line at home for minus 136. Tennessee's lack of offensive production is my main driving point here. Mariota hasn't proven that he can pass the ball consistently, and with those cornerbacks and Von Miller on the rush, this will be a tough one for Mariota. The Chargers' defense was supposed to be one of their rocks, one of their strong points heading into this season. They have not lived up to the hype so far. The Steelers' defense has also been suspect so far this season. Even though Pitt is down to their third-string quarterback in Hodges, he showed last week that he has some potential with this offense. I don't think this would be a shootout by any means, but I do see both teams scoring in the 20s. I like the over 41.5 in this game at minus 110. Detroit was written off to start the season, but they have quickly shown that they might be a true contender this year. In this divisional matchup against the Green Bay Packers, I look for the Lions to play another tough defensive game. They almost pulled out the win 2 weeks ago against the Chiefs, and with 2 weeks to prepare for a familiar team in the Packers, I have to take Detroit with the points in this one, plus 4.5 at minus 110 at Lambeau Monday night. For your Football Game Plan Week 6 NFL Best Bets, I'm Troy Anthony.
So that's it for this week's episode of Football Game Plan's Power Rankings. I'm Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Be sure to follow me on all of my social media accounts, and don't forget to check out and subscribe to the Football Game Plan Network located at youtube.com/footballgameplan. Subscribe to Football Game Plan podcast on iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating. And that's where you can find our NFL All 32 podcast. And also keep it locked here on the Game Plus Network for Thursday and Friday evening, where you can find our college football tailgate show and our NFL All 32 show. Remember, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time on the Game Plus Network. Check your cable provider for channel listings.